Turkish Airlines presents Business Africa.
Welcome to another edition of Business Africa. I'm your host, Afolake Oniloye. The top stories this week. On Africa Day, the African Union amplifies the call for reparative justice, urging economic redress for slavery and colonialism. In Lyon, African chefs take center stage to showcase a vibrant culinary industry that is driving jobs, innovation, and unlocking a $1 trillion market opportunity across the continent. From discarded banana stems to eco-chic homeware, Ugandan artisan Isaac Ngonke transform agricultural waste into high-value lampshades, plates, and shoes. As Africa Day rekindles reflection of the continent's past and future, the African Union is backing a growing global movement for reparative justice, demanding the world confront the economic scars left by slavery and colonialism.
On Africa Day, the African Union renewed its call for reparative justice with a focus on economic redress for slavery and colonialism. Its 2025 theme, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations, reflects growing global momentum. Africa's economy stands at about 2.7 trillion euros, far behind countries whose wealth grew during colonial and slavery eras like the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom and France. The disparity highlights a persistent global imbalance. Critics also point to systemic issues with institutions like the IMF and World Bank, where loan conditions often deepen debt and limit autonomy. Meanwhile, the CFA franc, still used by 14 African nations and tied to the French treasury, raises concerns about ongoing economic control. While large-scale reparations remain rare, there are notable precedents. Germany pledged $1.3 billion to Namibia for colonial-era atrocities, the UK compensated survivors of colonial torture in Kenya, and over $80 billion has been paid in Holocaust reparations.
Joining us now is Mr. Desiree Asokwevi, an international development expert and advocacy advisor at Open Society Foundations. Welcome to the show, Mr. Asokwevi. Tell us, what are the key financial demands at the heart of AU's reparative plan, and what economic goals do African nations hope to achieve?
Thank you very much for having me. The reparation agenda of the African Union is not just about financial compensation. It is about justice. It is about equity. It is all about correcting the wrong that has been made to Africa, from the slavery to colonization to apartheid, and that still has some implications in modern days international governance. So we have to start with the recognition of what has happened, a formal acknowledgement, and it's important to establish the truth for future generations. Then we have to look at the restitution of the stolen artifacts that are still to be found in the museum all over the countries of the former colonial powers. And then after that, we can talk about the compensation for the prejudice that the whole continent has faced during those very, very difficult moments.
How do you respond to critics who argue that reparations are too costly or unfeasible?
Too high, too expensive. I think we have to be very clear here. The cost of not addressing reparation is far higher. That argument of having those demand of compensation too higher simply ignore the amount of wealth that has been taken from the continent. The huge loss of manpower that the continent has faced through those exploitations. Let's make it clear, Africa is not asking for charity. Africa is asking for justice from many years of exploitations that we are still looking at today, we are still seeing today in international governance. So it's also important to say that this is not the first time the principle of reparation is discussed, looking at the history, even at the end of the slavery. Some slave masters have been compensated by their countries because slavery has been abolished. Also, if we look at the recent history, Jewish Holocaust reparation has happened. Germany, for example, has paid up to 90 billion to Holocaust survivors in Israel.
Beyond direct payments, what other innovative approaches could support reparations?
Of course, transfer of money should be part of the equation, even though it's not the most important. It's not only that. We can think about debt for development, for example, as one of the ways, to operate the reparations. We can think about preferential trade policy. That could be part of it, because trade rules, currency are not really benefiting the continent. We should also put in the balance transfer of technologies, where Africa is still kind of behind. So those are the few ideas that need to be put in the discussion of reparations. And it's important to mention the necessary reform of the international financial institutions as a key element of the reparation, the key element of the wrong that need to be right as we are speaking. There are ongoing discussions at the UN to create an international task body. And if this happens, it will help the continent, to slow down or to reduce the illicit financial flows, the amount of money that are illegally leaving the continent. It is about $90 billion every year.
Thank you so much for those insights. In Lyon, known as the world's food capital, African chefs are making mark not just as culinary artists but as entrepreneurs and innovators. This story is about business, identity and the global influence of African cuisine.
In the city of Lyon, the world's gastronomic capital, African chefs from around the continent and the diaspora gather to celebrate the richness and diversity of African cuisine. More than just a culinary showcase, the forum highlights a booming $313 billion African food industry set to exceed $1 trillion by 2030, with chefs driving growth as entrepreneurs, job creators and economic change makers.
We are not just cooks, we are CEOs, farmers, storytellers. Every dish is a business decision. I employ 27 people from rural producers to marketing staff. This forum helps amplify that reality.
From Dakar to Nairobi, chefs are launching restaurants, culinary schools and agri-food startups, with over 500,000 people employed in Lagos alone. They represent a new wave of African entrepreneurs. The forum is also drawing investors, distributors, hospitality brands and tourism operators who now see African cuisine as both a cultural force and a market opportunity. Whether it's fonio, moringa or tamarind, African ingredients are entering gourmet kitchens worldwide.
There is a clear demand for new flavors and authentic stories. What we are seeing now is an entire ecosystem forming around these chefs.
With Afro-fusion menus, business panels and investor pitch sessions, this forum is more than a celebration. It's a launch pad for global partnerships. As cuisine becomes soft power, Africa is exporting not just ingredients, but identity, innovation and ambition.
Uganda is Africa's largest banana producer. While some farmers focus on the fruit, one innovator sees the banana tree itself as priceless. Isaac Ngonke runs an enterprise crafting household items and fittings from banana fiber. Our correspondent visited his workshop and brings us the inspiring story.
These may be familiar items, but they are uniquely made from banana stems. And this has been Isaac Nkonge's work for almost a decade.
Actually, in 2012, after pursuing the course of industrial art and design at Kyambogo University, I had no capital. And I looked around the environment and found out that banana stems are discarded and you can access them at no cost. So I had to start the project from there.
Bananas are a major staple food in Uganda, yet most tree stems are dumped once the bananas have been harvested. But Isaac and his team treat them as gold. With help of a shaped cast, they stick banana fiber using cassava porridge and then dry it before finishing. This is Isaac's currently most wanted product. He uses extracted fiber waste from one banana stem and about 1 hour to make 3 lampshades like this. Whereas a farmer earns just over $5 from a bunch of green bananas, Isaac fetches almost $33 from lampshades made out of 1 banana stem. He has crafted more than 3,000 pieces since 2016, and his market is growing. Isaac is challenged by limited access to banana plantations around urban areas, but he hopes to expand by training more people and raising his own farm.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Business Africa. Thank you for watching. For more business stories and the latest updates, stay tuned to Africanews or visit us online at africanews.com. See you soon.
Business Africa was presented by Turkish Airlines.